Okay, welcome, 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 everybody. This is another Sunday with When Black Women Gather. Thank you all for coming. I know it's December. I know everybody's busy shopping. And if you're on the East Coast where I am, the weather is fantastic. So I appreciate you giving your time or sharing your space, your space with your husbands who are watching football, Miss Richland. But yeah, so today it's just women. Our last few calls have been co-ed. But I think we need some time just for ourselves. And the description, the title that I gave this meeting today was Consumerism and Black Woman Wellness. Let's talk about it. And there's a couple of things that are happening. On the consumer front, a few people, since we've been on here, have already mentioned some things that are pressing for you. So I want us to talk about that. I'm going to share with you a recent experience that I had as a consumer, if you will, a patient in a hospital, and you're going to find it incredible. And then I talked to a few of my friends this week who are just in a place, and I'm kind of in that place too. And I'm going to refrain from calling it being in a funk, but just not in a good place emotionally. So I'm happy that we are able to admit that, right? Because for the most part, Black women think we got to put on this front like we're super strong, like nothing bothers us. So I was really impressed to speak with my friends who were, I've given myself permission. You say, how are you? I'm gonna tell you the truth, not so good. And I think we don't do enough of that. We tell each other that we're okay. And if we can't be honest amongst ourselves with what's happening with us, not to say you got to tell people your business, but if you ain't having a good day, you're not having a good day. And you know what? It's okay to say it. We're just as human as anybody else. And I think some of the times that the treatments that we receive, it's because we've contributed to this, master person or what have you. But we're not super women. We're women, and we're just as vulnerable and sometimes fragile as the next person, and it's all good. So we're gonna own it today. So anybody who has something they want to talk about, this is going to be the place. So I'm going to start off just telling you quickly about, because some of my friends, I'm real sorry. They're like, you didn't tell me you were in the emergency room. And I thought I did. So I know Audrey, for one, he shouts me and said, when were you in the emergency room? So let me just share with you real quick. I moved, I think a lot of you know, I live in Camden, New Jersey. And Camden, as you know, if you don't know, Camden is an inner city area. I don't know if there's a lot of crime, but it certainly has a problem with poverty. And I think Camden is like any other inner city where there's this perception that you can just treat us any kind of way because the majority population here is Black, brown, and I heard somebody say the average income is $30,000. I don't know if that's true, but it's not much higher than that. I feel comfortable saying that. So why did I move here? I moved here on purpose because I object to, I think wherever we can resist gentrification, we should. So I moved here on purpose. When I decided to come back to New Jersey, I actually only looked at Trenton, which is also deprived, if you will, if you can say that, just as is Trenton. And both of them are probably ripe for gentrification. So I'm here on purpose. What you have to consider when you live in these areas is the zip code, because the other thing that I've learned over the years, is that your zip code matters, right? Oh, Brenda, that's you. Yeah. You got mute.
Another bit of Chateau Frontenac's history.
Okay, thank you. So the other thing that matters is your zip code. People treat you according to your zip code. So one of the things I did consider when I moved into Camden is, getting stopped by the police, something as simple as that. Trust me, they look at your address and that dictates how you're going to be treated. And usually I knock on wood, I'm very successful and, I'm a Black woman, I'm professional, whatever the case may be. They usually let me go. Even though I live on the waterfront in Camden, people don't know that, and I don't think it should matter. They just see a Camden address, so I already knew that was something that I was going to have to deal with. But just other experiences that I've had. I also lived in Harlem before I came here, and I've lived in DC, so I've lived in quote unquote urban inner city areas. So I understand that there's a level of care that we get, whether it's in a hospital or, as a customer in a store, just whatever. I think that there's two things going on. There is people who give us service don't feel that they have any responsibility or obligation to give us quality service or good customer care. And the sadder part for me is I don't think we expect it. I don't think we demand it. I think maybe in some cases, it's all we've known is mediocre service or care. So we don't even know to ask for something better. And that's just my thought. You all, we're going to open this up and you all can share what your thoughts are. But since I've been here, just dealing with the whole medical thing, it's been crazy. But a few weeks ago, I found myself at 4:30 in the morning, first of all, trying to get an Uber in Camden. They're like, because I didn't want to take my car in case they kept me. I'm like, I don't want to be laying in here worried about my car. Am I going to get a ticket or what have you, or is it going to be towed? So I wanted to catch an Uber. That in itself was a challenge, trying to get, every time I would call in, it would say no cars were available. I'm like, really? That's not like Uber, like the Uber that I know, right? So finally, I don't know a taxi company, so that was a trip. But ultimately, I did get an Uber. And when I told the guy it was so hard to get a car, he was like, I must be the only one out here. Thank you for telling me that. I'm going home. So anyway, now I get to the hospital. I'm going to name the hospital because it's a very popular hospital. I don't know if you're in the area. It's Cooper Hospital. Cooper Hospital is thought to be one of the better hospitals in the area. So I thought, right? They're certainly all over town. They're getting, just everywhere you look, there's all this Cooper stuff. So of course, and I literally can walk to Cooper Hospital, but it was 4:30 in the morning and I chose not to. So I go to the hospital and I'm there, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half, and I realized, so let me say I had pains in my upper left chest. That's the only reason I was there. And this was on a Friday. I had woke up with the same pains in my chest on Thursday. So I'm like, stop trying to be master woman, superwoman, and diagnose what's wrong with you. It's the left chest, and you are over 60. Take your butt to the hospital. So I would go to the hospital. So I get to this hospital. It's 4:30 in the morning, and it really wasn't crowded. It wasn't like a horrible scene. I'm like, oh, this is better than I thought. I mean, cosmetically, it could have, looked a little better, but other than that, it was fine. So now I have to go to the restroom. The restroom that's adjacent to the emergency room is out of order. So they send me to another one, which is not far. It's in the same vicinity. So I go to that restroom. Well, as soon as I walk in there, it is the toilet, I see right away, has dried feces around the rim of the toilet. This is in a hospital, and we're in COVID, and everybody's supposed to be so concerned about, cleanliness. So I gotta pee really bad. So I hike over the toilet and do my thing. And I always flush my toilet now, I'm sure you all do too, with your foot. And when I turn around to flush the toilet, there was dried blood on the tank because somebody before me had blood on their finger and clearly had, flushed the toilet. This is in a hospital. There's paper towels on the floor. Somebody had cut off their hospital band. I couldn't believe it. So I come out and I say to the ladies at the nurse's station, I'm like, you all need to get with that bathroom. It's disgusting. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Right away, right away. I go to the bathroom 2 hours later, and I want you all just to open up and talk to me and talk with me, if you will. What do you think I find in the bathroom?
The same situation.
The exact same situation. No one had been in that bathroom, not as a result of my complaint, not as a part of their routine coverage. The bathroom looked just as bad as it did before. I cannot believe this. So now I'm not so nice about it, right? And I say to them, this is ridiculous. I told you about that bathroom 2 hours ago. And of course, their excuse was that the shifts had changed and it was a different nurses and that they would handle it right away. And then I tell the doctor, this is really bad, right? So now I'm in my, first of all, I don't know why they're hooking me up to all this stuff. So they've got me hooked up to, they've got a blood pressure cuff on my left arm, and on my right arm, they put in an IV, which I don't understand why they're doing this, but I'm not a doctor, right? I'm a lawyer, but they don't know that I'm a lawyer. I know I'm a lawyer, but I'm playing, they're the doctor. So they hooked me up to this blood, the IV. And of course they put somebody from the medical field, one of those things they put on you for the EKG. They're all over my chest. So I'm hooked up, like, all the stuff. So at some point they wheel me down. They wheel me down to the X-ray. Wait a minute, hold on.
Hello?
They wheel me down to X-ray. So I go down to X-ray, and when I come back, I'm in, your bed is your gurney or whatever. So they raise the bed rail, so I can't get out of the bed. And I realize that I don't have the call button for the nurse. And I'm like, okay. I'm thinking, well, somebody's going to come in and check on me eventually, right? So I'm laying here, and I'm already thinking, like, why am I here? Nobody's even, okay. So nobody ever comes. I start knocking on the wall. Nobody responds. I call out because I can hear them. I can hear them in the hallway behind me. Hello, is anybody there? Nobody answers. So then I take the blood pressure cuff off my left arm, scoop myself down, because I go to the bathroom, scoop myself down to the bottom of the bed, past the rail, work my way over to the door where I can at least, with keeping my right arm close to the tree that has all these gadgets on, I'm hooked up to. And I open the door and I say, hello, is anybody there? And the person says, somebody says, yes, what's going on? And I said, I need to go. Somebody needs to come unhook me so I can go to the restroom. And what room are you in? I said, 29. So the woman comes. I don't remember what she said, but she had a little funky attitude, but I didn't care at that point because, I said, I did say something like, you guys left me in here. I don't have a call button. I have no way to reach you. It could have been an emergency or anything. She unhooks me. I go to the bathroom. But when I come back, my regular nurse is assigned. She's the one who was assigned to me. She's there. And I say to her, I said, I can't believe that all this time, like, you never came back to check on me. And she said, I have a lot of patients. And I said, yeah, and I happen to be one of them. And I said, I'm in here. I said, I have to go to the restroom. I'm hooked up to all this stuff. The call button's nowhere to be found. And you know what she said to me? This woman literally says to me, you could have unhooked yourself. This is in a hospital. I said, I could have unhooked myself. I said, I don't think that the insurance company pays you for me to figure out what to unhook and what not to unhook. And then she says to me, believe this or not, she said, if it were an emergency, I bet you would have figured out how to unhook yourself. So can you believe this? Are you like gasping?
I am gasping.
Yes, it's unreal. She said if it was an emergency, you would, and this woman is a Latina. So don't talk to me about people of color. And I think it would have happened if it was a Black nurse. I'm just not sure that we treat each other right. And that's what I want us to talk about. So this woman tells me that if it were a fire, I would have known how to unhook myself. I'm like, okay. I said, you know what? I'm done with you. Get the doctor. Because by now, I've been at the hospital. It's close to 11 o'clock by now. I've been in the hospital since 4:30 in the morning. Now, one person has said to me, hey, you want a chip of ice? How about a molded piece of bread? Like, no one has offered me anything, like to eat, drink, whatever. That's not what they're going to do to Ms. Rosenberg when she comes to the hospital. First of all, Ms. Rosenberg probably know better than me not to go to this hospital. So anyway, so then I noticed that a urine sample that she had me give for her earlier in the morning was still sitting on the chair. Because like in most hospitals, if they ask you for a sample, they'll have a little ledge, leave your urine in the ledge and we'll, open the closet, we'll leave it, we'll get it later. Nope, so I bring it back to the room. I sit the cup on the chair, knowing that she'll see it eventually, right? But I forgot all about the urine. But as I'm telling her about how negligent she's been, I noticed this urine. And I said, you know what? I said, that urine has been sitting there for hours. And she said, well, that's not a big deal. We can always get more urine. Like, this is my urine. I think I get to decide if I'm going to give it up. And I said, that's not the principle. I said, the fact is that it's been sitting there. So she gets angry with me, not thinking clearly, picks up the urine, everybody. Now, this is a hospital that's already violated the dried feces, the dirty towels, the dried blood. She picks up the cup of urine and throws it into not the biohazardous trash can, into the regular trash can. Now, what's wrong with that? I can't, and and this is when you really wish, I really wish I was a young person, because a young person would have taken pictures of all of this, would have recorded the interactions that you're having with these people. These people are over the chain, right? I couldn't believe that this was happening to me. And when the doctor came in, he was the only one that knew that I was an attorney. And he asked me that, I don't know how. So I guess when he was doing his examination, like, what is your profession? Normally, I will say a professor, but sometimes it's like, you need to know, like, they hadn't even struck me as, I don't know, you just get this vibe. But the reality is, it doesn't matter if you're an attorney, a street sweeper, or whatever. There's a quality of care that we all deserve. And the first thing he wanted to know, he was an Indian guy. He was like, did I do anything wrong? And this was my experience at this hospital. I said, why am I here? Because I don't know, and if anybody here is in the medical field, maybe you can tell me, because I've either read somewhere or somebody told me that if they can keep you in the emergency room for a certain amount of time, then they get to bill the insurance company for an admission. Is that true? I don't know if that's true or not. So this is what is
Well,
that true?
I need to ask you one thing.
Yes.
The admission process, when you first came there and the intake, they're supposed to evaluate you before they admit you. How did you get from just filling out the forms, them taking your vital signs, into being in a room hooked up to an IV? Were you admitted or were you just being evaluated?
I think I'm just being evaluated because
Okay.
because the word admit was never used. They did tell me that I would be there for a long time because they had to check my blood every couple of hours, something about enzymes. I'm not a nurse, so
Okay.
like I said, I'm trying not to second guess these people because they're professionals. I don't know anything about medicine, but I'm trusting that you do. But in my mind, I'm thinking, is this like a game that we're playing? Are you all, because what are you doing? First of all, you're not coming. I'm in this room by myself for hours. So what am I paying for? Why am I here? So when the doctor came in, he said something about, I said, get me out of here, like right now. I said, I will never come back here again. Now, the problem is that this is also my regular, so this is my experience in the emergency room, but these are also my regular doctors. And let me share you with this. This is why I think I just got to start all over again. I had a Black female doctor who I saw who was also in the same system. And if you can imagine, and this is the other reason why I didn't take the situation with the pain in my upper left chest slightly, because last year, I'm telling you all my business, but it's not that heavy, but it's just interesting. So I had a CAT scan, and when they did the CAT scan, they noticed in the CAT scan, which they were not looking for, there was fluid around my heart. And so when I go see the doctor about the hernia, because that's what we were really talking about, he was like, that's not your problem. Your problem is you have fluid around your heart. And he could tell from the expression on my face, this was the first I heard of this. And he said that. He said, is this the first you're hearing this? And I said, yeah, it is. And I'm pissed, right? Because I have a Black female doctor who I go out of my way to have Black female doctors. And I'm going to call her name. Her name is Camille Green. And she just went up north. She left South Jersey. She's somewhere up north. So now I go right away and make an appointment to see her because I'm annoyed with her because she's the one who ordered the CAT scan. Why didn't you see this? And she, so now I go see her and I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for her to tell me about the fluid around my heart. Now, by now, I've already gone to Deborah Heart and Lungs. So I'm telling you, in South Jersey, that's where you need to go. They were fantastic and it doesn't cost you a dime. They do complete, whether you have insurance or not, it's free to everybody, so it's not even income driven. So just keep that in mind. And that's what they do. They do heart and lungs. I said, let me go do where, this is what they do. And so I'm sitting in her office and I'm waiting for her to tell me. And so finally, she never mentions it. And she hasn't read my record because she would know that I'd seen, a cardiologist. No mention of any of this. She's my primary. So finally, I say to her, I said, Dr. Green, when are you going to tell me that there's fluid around my heart? And the look on her face was like she didn't, I guess she had not read my record. And what I also learned from this is that we all need to be reading our records. They're available to you, they're available to the doctors, they're available to us. So we need to be reading our records. And she says, she's flustered and she's, giving me some lip service back and forth or whatever. And then ultimately, prepare your jaw. The woman literally says to me, a patient doesn't need to know everything. Believe it. This woman literally tells me when I have fluid around my heart that patients don't need to know everything. And this is a Black female physician. And I will say to you, and that's why I'm making the point about when we're in the inner city, and this wasn't, now she's a part of Cooper, but she's not in the inner city. Cooper is a huge hospital organization. They have facilities all around the city. And the facility that I'm at with her is in Voorhees, which is not Camden at all. I'm sure that's where Ms. Rosenberg goes, but their emergency room is in Camden. Ms. Rosenberg is not coming to Camden for their emergency services. So anyway, that's just, I had another situation. So I just wanted to talk about how do we manage these things and what do we do? Of course, I'm going to, and the horrible thing is that, of course, I reported this situation at the emergency room to their patient relations, but I wanted to talk to the CEO, but they were like, start here. I get a sister, a Black woman, and I'm going to refrain from calling her name, but I really shouldn't. But, I have not heard back from her and I've called her twice. So this happened on the Friday before Thanksgiving. So that Wednesday is when I called to report it. And I didn't expect to hear from them right away. But I thought Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, nope. I called Thursday, and now we're up to another Thursday. I haven't heard from anybody. So here we even have a Black woman in patient relations who also could give a crap, even though that's not how she presented on the phone. And haven't heard from her. So somebody else, I'm sure I'm not the only one with this experience. I just want us to have a conversation. So if anybody wants to unmute and just share anything, this is the time. And the consumer thing goes beyond the hospital. Like, what kind of experiences do we have as Black people? And it doesn't only happen in the inner city. And it doesn't only happen with Black people. With Black, it doesn't happen only with non-Black people, because Black people and brown people, we do the same thing. So my perception is that we don't demand it and we don't get it. So does anybody else anybody want to chime in and just share what your thoughts are? The mic is open. Go ahead, TMT. I'm not sure who that is.
It's Tracy, Helen.
I thought so, but I didn't want to call you. Hey, Tracy. Hey, girl, what's your thoughts?
It's been a minute. Good to see everybody. I had kind of the opposite experience that you have. When I was in law school, I was diagnosed with something called a microadenoma on the pituitary gland. It is a very tiny tumor, and whatever. It freaked me out because I was in law school, was my as a 3L, and we did not have the laws where students were still on their parents' health insurance in New Jersey. So I went down to Board of Social Services. I applied for charity care. And then it was this back and forth with, well, you need to look for a job. And I was like, yes, no, I do not. Because my job is in school and I've been paying into not only the Social Security system, but Medicare system since I was 16-year-olds working at McDonald's. So what you are going to do is go in that computer and print me out a medical voucher so I can go and, and be treated. So of course you got to get the manager because they just don't know the power. In any event, I did that. And while I was in the outpatient part of Mercer Hospital at the time, it's since closed down. When it was time for the doctor to see me, he came out in the waiting room and I had my books open because you just never stop studying. And he said, oh, where did you go to school? I said, Temple. And he said, my wife she teaches at Temple. What brings you here today? And then I told him, he said, I'm going to see you here today, but for your next visit, I want you to come into my office. I can only imagine how stressful this must be for you as a student, right? And I told him, his name was Dr. Shar. He happened to be a white doctor. I said, when I actually get some health insurance, Dr. Shar, I'm going to come see you with my insurance and pay beyond this charity care. And I did. And I was glad that in his practice, he had a Black woman doctor who I ended up transferring to once he retired. But my advocacy as a student with Board of Social Services, you know, shows what you can have a different outcome. So I don't think it was because she was a Black woman. I just think she was an asshole doctor.
Right. That
Because
happens.
they come in all colors too.
And that's the point. That's why I made the point about the Black doctor. I couldn't, well, Tracy, I'm sure you all remember me telling you about the Black doctor that told me that patients don't need to know everything. I said, are you kidding me? I said, we're not talking about a hangnail. We're talking about my heart. You think I don't need to know that? Oh, shit was horrible.
No.
Right.
You know what I think?
Hmm.
You know what I think?
Yes.
I have been, every day of my life, in the last 20 years, I have thought about writing a book about how my people have treated me.
Oh.
And some of it has been because I'm talented. And when I presented myself when I was 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s, I wasn't scared of nobody. I had my information down. I studied in advance. I knew what I was talking about, what I was doing. And when I was at the university and I was working for, you know, I got into university quite by accident because there was a Black politician who had a lot of sway over the white university. And he was in charge of the legislative assembly for the state of New York. And so the white president of the University of Buffalo, they bent over to kiss his behind. And when he tried to negotiate with me to work at a particular healthcare facility, and he said that he would hire me, but my goal was to force the already Black woman who was there, was to take her job and force her out. And I said, no, I have never done anything like that before. I don't know how to do that, and I won't. Okay, great, then you don't have a job. From that day forth, for 40 years almost, I was persona non grata in the political scene here in Buffalo, New York. When I did get a job at the University of Buffalo, the day that I went to the interview, he turned up with the president of the university saying that it was he who would have to decide whether I was to have a job. I had 2 children. I was scared to death, worried about how I would pay for colleges and everything. And I was able to get that job. And the person who was in charge of that I responded to, was one of his political cronies. And for all of the years that I was there, it was a nightmare. Mm-hmm. It was a nightmare. And I wound up deciding that, and to calm my nerves about everything, every morning at 5 o'clock, rain, shine, or snow, I walked 5 miles in a park by myself to calm myself down before I left my home. And then I got home, I went to work, and every morning at 9 o'clock, I went to the library and stole an hour or half an hour, and I decided I would do something different. So I wrote a second dissertation to calm myself down. And then every evening I would come home, have dinner, fix that, and then go back to the university to go to the library to do some more work. The moral of this is that I have never been treated so horribly by any person on the planet except Black women. That has been my experience. And it was amazing. And then to add to that, the fact that I was not a gay woman, didn't have a problem with any gay. My daughter identifies as non-binary or queer or what have you. Because I wasn't gay, one department, they refused to give me a position which I should have had. And that meant I was never going to get, at that point, pension from the university. I was denied that. And it continued on and on and on and on. So I know I don't have, and I'm telling you, I don't play with the Black sisters. I don't play with them. When they get hostile with me, I get hostile with them. I'm going to report them. I'm not taking no shit off of them because I have had some experiences. Now, this is not to rule out Black white folks, but the most intense experiences that I have been with Black women. Black women. None of them as smart as I am. None of them as, instructive as I am. But I'm telling you, when you have a physician, and you did right, you should not even be finished with this woman. In my experience, if you do something to me like that to impact my health, you're going to get all shit falling on you. And that's what you should do. I would follow up on this to the nth degree. This is what you did to me. You're not going to do it again. And now, fortunately for us, we have mechanisms now we never had before. In my neighborhood, I have something called next door Parkside. You do something wrong to me in my neighborhood, I'm reporting you to my entire neighborhood. You sell me a fat sandwich when it's supposed to be a decent sandwich, I'm calling back and I'm putting it online so that the world can see what you did.
That's great. That's like a community-based Yelp.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty
I
cool.
complained. I got a sandwich, a pastrami sandwich, and it looked like garbage when I got it home. I called them back and said, look, this is not my experience with you. Why don't you just give me another sandwich and we'll be okay? The young girl said, I don't know if I can do that, but come back Monday and we'll do that. I called Monday and said, I'm coming back to get my sandwich. The lady said, I don't know who you think you are. You're not getting, I said, okay, I can handle this. I went straight to next door Parkside, said, dear members of the community, thousands of them, this was my experience at Tony's Deli. Don't go there anymore. This is what they did. 99 people responded all at once. Then the people who run it sent me a letter, said, would you like to start a group? I said, listen, I don't have time. I don't want to be known as the lady that went to whatever over a fat pastrami sandwich. I don't want to do that. But I do want people to know you don't have to go there if you don't want to. The family of
and that's what I want us to talk about. How do we advocate for ourselves when these
advocate? That's right. And I'm telling you, what you have here now, and what people don't understand is the fact that you set up this thing with, when Black women gather, it takes hours to get this set up. It takes hours to get people coming and talking, and it's a job. It is a job. And I'm so proud of you for doing it. I don't have the energy to do it anymore, but I'm so proud of you. But this is what we have to do. We have to talk.
For showing up every Sunday. So hold on, Peggy. We got two hands up. Elaine, your hand has been up for a minute. Don't go away, Peggy.
Okay.
Elaine.
Hi, ladies.
Hi, Miss Irvin. How are you?
I'm okay.
Hello.
So I'm in Portland, Oregon, and so I had gone for an ophthalmology appointment. And before I could even get in there, just registering, the gentleman, because I have Kaiser coverage, I have coverage because my deceased husband he was a disabled veteran. So I have coverage under the VA. So this guy, he registers me and also have Medicare. So he says, oh, $15. I said, I don't have a copayment because I have a couple other insurances. So he decided he was going to loud talk me. And it's interesting because people are now starting to go back to doctors and they are sitting in waiting rooms, whereas, before there would be like nobody in there. So I'm as I'd gone in there, I thought, oh, there's a lot of people here. And so he starts loud talking me. And it's like I didn't have the $15. And I said, I don't have a payment. Well, I don't see it here. And I said, well, it's there. And he kept talking. Do you know, I just went and sat down. And so when they called my name, I went into my appointment. And so on the way out, I went up to the counter and I said, do we need to discuss something about my medical coverage? Oh, no, I see it. And so I left and I got home and I called and reported him, because this is not the first time that this has happened at this particular place in Clackamas, Oregon. And the gentleman said to me in the call room, I think they might be in Maryland, He says, I know that clinic. And he sounded like he was a brother, okay? He says, I know, I'm very familiar with that clinic. I said, all right. So yeah, it's to the point now where I feel like I need to take out my phone and record it like you were saying
Every
before.
time.
We
And
gotta
take
be like,
pictures
we
and-
gotta think like young people. Because
Yeah.
I wish I had taken a picture of the bathroom. I
Mhm.
wish I
Oh
had
my
taken
God,
a
yeah,
picture
yeah.
of the I could have just taken a picture of the urine, the cup of urine in the
Mhm.
trash can. And it's almost like once it left her hand, she knew what she had done, but she
Yeah.
wasn't there in my presence. She wasn't going to remove it. And so
It's
anyway.
just exhausting. It
It
really
is
is.
exhausting. It is exhausting. But you know, if we don't advocate for ourselves, who will?
Yeah.
And you know, and to Peggy's point, I kept saying that I was going to write Dr. Green and tell her, like, don't you ever, because of course I never went back to her again.
Yeah.
And I have told her colleagues, so I'm sure it's gotten back to her what my thoughts of her were. But I kept saying I was going to write her, like, you know, as a Black woman. And I told her, you know, that I go out of my way. I did tell her this. I go out of my way to find Black doctors. And if I get a Black doctor who's a female, to me, that's icing on the cake. So for you to tell me that I don't need to know when something's wrong with me, I say I have a problem with that. And she was also, but then she just, so anyway, Georgia, I see your hand has been, was it Georgia Myra? Which is your first name, Myra or Georgia? I'm confused. But your hand is up.
I thought about that when I put it up there, but I said maybe the comma, or should have used the semicolon, but anyway.
You're Myra from Georgia.
Right.
Okay. Somebody sharing their screen. Who is that?
Good question.
Okay. Go ahead, Miss Myra. Tell us what's
Well, the first thing I wanted to say was I totally agree with how Peggy started out, because all of my adult life, I don't recall this being an issue when I was a kid, but all of my adult life, problems that I've had have always been with Black women. And I tried to figure out, what is it with Black women? I am a Black woman too. And I have another friend who I hadn't even thought about it, who told me, to the point that she started to cry, because I didn't ask her, but I wondered why all of her friends were mostly white. And she told me that all of her life, she has been treated better by white people than by any Black person, especially Black women. And so she decided that she was just going to live her life being friends with and enjoying the company of people who treated her well.
Mhm.
And I just think that's horrible that we do all of this, you know, Black Lives Matter, all of these kinds of things, but what the white people don't know, apparently, and maybe some of us don't know, that we have issues within the race.
Mhm.
And my problem most of my adult life revolved around, I know you can't see me right now, and I made myself disappear, and I don't know how to make myself reappear.
Go to the bottom of the screen and hit start video.
Okay, but I am what, when I was growing up, people said light skin, fair skin,
Mhm.
whatever kind of skin.
Hi, yellow.
But I had no idea until I moved to Georgia that that was still an issue within the race.
Mhm.
And I'm not trying to purposely be naive, but when I grew up, it didn't matter. You know, you were friends with whoever treated you well.
Right.
And but when I came to Georgia, it was an issue. You know, like Peggy, I was at the university, and one of my coworkers, for example, would say things to me like, and she was the other Black person. There were two of us. She has since passed away, but would ask me questions like, why do I hang with the white people? Or the white people treat me better than they do her because she's darker than I am. And things like, I probably got hired because I'm lighter than she is. And I even asked her one time, I said, well, one of the people that I hang around with, a friend of mine, who was a doctoral student, and she is very, very dark, but everybody in the department loved her. And it was because of her personality. She was open to everybody. And, you know, those people who never meet a stranger, that's how she was. And the students loved her, the staff, the faculty. And I asked this lady, so she's much darker than you are, so why do they all love her so much? And I said, could it have anything to do with your attitude? Because she was, I don't know. I do know that she came from that part of Louisiana. I don't know if I'm gonna pronounce it right or not, Natchitoches or something like that. And my understanding is, long time ago, some of you may be too young to remember this, but when Oprah Winfrey still was still doing her show, she had these people from Natchitoches come on her show because it was during the time that Clinton was president, and he had done something that Republicans really hated. He was trying to get what do you call it? Affordable housing in Natchitoches, so Black folks could have decent homes at a price they could afford. And these Natchitoches people were very upset about that. And they came on Oprah's show to talk about how they did not want those Black people living there. And, you know, they had no shame. They spoke what they believed. Does anybody remember that?
Yes.
Well, anyway, I just was amazed at her. She said things like, they are not going to label me an angry Black woman, but she was an angry Black woman. She complained about everything. She was negative about everything. Even when she first got there, she would not go to the faculty meetings because she said that was a waste of her time. And the department head would send somebody to go and get her. And they'd come back and say, that's what she said. It was a waste of her time. She had things to do. I was like, okay then. But she was always on me about my complexion. And she'd say things like, oh, so you passed the brown paper bag test. And I'm supposing that, well, anyway, the bottom line is this: you have white privilege, and apparently you have light privilege. You know,
so what you're talking about, first of all, let me say that we've been doing this for over a year. We did have a conversation last year about, are we our sisters' keepers, which I also put in this email, right? So it sounds like from what you're saying and what Peggy is saying, that perhaps that's a conversation that we should revisit.
Yes.
And I also hear you talking about colorism. So, and Brenda, go ahead. I see you. Open your mic. And I just want to say, as Tracy put in the chats, that has not been my experience. You know, the reason that we do When Black Women Gather, it's because I truly believe, and it's truly been my experience, and I think most of the women who show up here on Sundays, our experience is, yes, we have negative experiences with other Black women, and yep, it's more hurtful and more painful because it's us treating us in a way that's not very friendly, right? Doesn't feel good. But and like I said, we've had this conversation, and I am more than happy to have it again, because there were women who said, look, the issue is because we're talking about in the workplace, and they were saying pretty much, that, you know, there were women who said that the issues that they have been with sisters. And not everybody. When we did the conversation on Black mothers, there were people who said, you know what, my mother's not the angel that you all seem to have been raised with, and I'm still scarred by things that happened with my mother. So, you know, no situation is going to be consistent. We're all going to have, you know, different experiences. And I am so sorry that you and your colleagues seem to think that most of your experiences negative have been with Black women. But I hear you, and I do not negate or discount anything that you just said, because that's your truth. And I'm going to say that other women on this call share your truth. So I'm so glad that you shared, that Peggy shared, and I see Brenda shaking her head. So Brenda, what do you want to share with us? So don't leave us, Myra from Georgia. Hang on, and I appreciate your comments. I hope you appreciate that that you can feel that I appreciate your comments.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Brenda, and I want to give a shout out to, is it Elaine from Portland, Oregon?
I can't, yes, it's Elaine from Oregon.
Okay, Elaine from Portland, Oregon. Shout out to you. And First AME Zion in Portland, Oregon. Let me just share. This has been a sad discussion today for me, because I want to start with being a walker. I walk miles and miles. And when I got into a walking club, one of the things they shared with us is that you should try to wear Black clothing, Black bottoms. You wear Black tight bottoms just in case you have to have a pee break. You wear Depends. You pack your bra with tissues or toilet paper. So if you have to pee, you're gonna pee in those Depends, because if you're a walker, there are no bathrooms when you go on different trails. So you have to learn how to pee, where to pee, and how to take care of yourself. Going in these public bathrooms today, danger. What you talked about, the dried up poop, if you had on a Depend, or if you had tissue stuffed in your panties, or you go to a medical supply and get paper panties. That way, if you have to pee, you're gonna pee on yourself, but you have tight pants on, you get wet, and then you can just pull those things off and dispose of them. There's no reason for us to get stuck in these nasty ass bathrooms, because you're gonna get your shoes wet, your pants wet, and everything else. But if you learn how to pack yourself, I've gone on trips in Nairobi, Kenya with long walks. I've gone on trips in my community, long walks, and I had to learn how to pee. And I'm 74 years old. So I started this maybe when I was 60 something. When you join a walking club, they will talk to you about how to pee, how to take care of yourself, and avoid these nasty places. And if you do, you learn how to squat and pee. Okay, that's my position on peeing. So Helen, I'm sorry you went through that, but take it from me. You got to learn how and where to pee when you have to pee. Now,
well, you know what, Brenda, I told those people, which I didn't tell you, I left out of my story. I used to work in a prison. And when I worked in that prison, it was so clean you could eat off the floor. And I certainly expect that if I'm in a hospital, I can eat off the floor.
Well, so don't expect that. Don't expect that,
oh,
Helen.
I do.
Don't expect
Listen,
that.
Nurses are humans. It's just like when I was working, I'd walk in the door, they said, good morning, Mrs. Brown. It wasn't always a good morning. And if you get one of them nurses who isn't a good morning, you're gonna fall into their shit campaign. So that's that. Now, my other thing I wanted to talk to you about, and I'll be fast because I got another thing to do, is there's something called shared values. I've had my problems with Black women, white women, Chinese women. I've had problems, but it's one thing I can tell you. I live in a lily white neighborhood.
Yes, she does.
And let me tell you, these women, or I know more about these women than they know about themselves. You have to find people with shared values. Don't set yourself up to think, oh, I get along better with white people. I get along and my Black people. Sure, you've had some problems with Black people. But the political system that we're living in today, I don't care how close you are to white people, they let you know that you are not one of them. So you have to find people with shared values. I have traveled out of the country with white people, out of the country with Black people. I find my group of people that gives me the validation that I need, and I can give back to them. But I'm not gonna open up myself to say, I can only get along with white people. You can't do that. We have to work with each other. And I think color is important, but let me tell you something. When I hang out with white people, I have fun, but it's nothing better than when I hang out with my Black sisters.
That's
and
right.
we can sit up and chit chat and have fun and talk crazy. And we don't have to explain. We kind of know where we're coming from.
Absolutely.
And I've never worked in a job situation where I was competing with other Black people. So maybe my view would be different if I was. I was always the only one or two Black people. And I didn't have to compete with that other Black person because, you know, we both recognized where we were in the system.
At the bottom.
Yeah, you know, we recognize that. And living in this neighborhood, I just love hearing the complaints from these people because I said, you know, I go walking every morning and I know, and they want to walk with me, they talk with me. And I'll say, well, why don't you go talk to this person about what you see? Oh no, oh no, oh no. So you got to be careful. Take the time. Please take the time to get to know your sisters and listen. You can confront them. You can say, you know, Brenda, you made me feel uncomfortable when you did A, B, and C. Or Brenda, I can learn from you. Let's share. Let's get on a bus and go to the city. Let's do, you know, you gotta do these things. And it's important because I have a granddaughter who's 26. I don't want her to have to be going through these changes. And she's dark skinned, she's short, you know, but she's educated. And it just saddens me to know that these are games that are still being played and we're playing against each other. And this political situation, we better try to break this wall down to try to come together. Because these white folks, when them husbands come in with their wives to vote and say, did you vote? Did you vote? Did you vote for who we talked about? They ain't thinking about you. So you gotta take the time to get to know your sisters. I know Helen, it's not because I talk to Helen every day. It's not because I talk to her, but at 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes I can't sleep. I'll call Helen and she could hang up on me and say, girl, why are you calling me this early? But she gives me the time that I need to unload. That's what we have to do with our other sisters as well. I get calls at 2 and 3 or Brenda, I'm in town. Can I? Sure, come on over, come on. You know, let's just try to be more charitable when it comes to understanding our sisters. We have to. That's all I have to say. And you can challenge me. I want to talk about this.
Yeah. All great points. All great points.
Excuse me, can I say something, Helen?
Go ahead, Jacqueline, because she's been waiting, and then we have Richland. Go ahead, Jacqueline, please.
Yeah, you had said something about hospitals being so clean. Hospitals are not so clean.
That's right.
The floors are the dirtiest places. Germs, blood, body fluids all over the place. Excuse my dog, sorry.
Okay,
Excuse my dog.
that's all right.
It's not true. All hospitals are not always clean. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I'm sorry to hear your experience, but the thing is to focus on you and your health and get through that. All that, oh, the toilet is dirty, this and this, that is stressful. You have to have some type of survival, survival techniques. That yes, you see this is not right, but you got to get through. You got to take care of yourself. All that stuff is stressful, what you're going through. Get yourself good and get yourself out of there.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
You're pinpointing, oh, this is dirty, this is this. Okay, but what are you doing for yourself? Knowing that this is dirty, this is this, all that can be stressful. And you're in a situation where you need medical help. Now, I understand the part where you couldn't call anybody. There was no button or anything to ring or to chime. That I understand, but all those other insignificant things, I don't know.
No, I guess for me, Jacqueline, and I hear what you're saying, and when we talk about hospitals being, germy, we get that. You're in a hospital, people are sick. So there is an expectation that that people are, that there are germs in the hospital. What there is not an expectation for me is that I'm going to walk into a hospital that's not clean. That is to me not acceptable in any circumstances. And I should not have to hospital shop. I should not have to say, drive me to the white side of town so that I can get, like I said, my experience would never happen to Miss Rosenberg, partly because Miss Rosenberg is not going to come to that hospital. But also,
well, let me ask you this.
But if Miss Rosenberg was there, she's going to have a completely different experience. So what I'm saying is that as Black women, as Black customers, as Black patients, as Black people, we need to not say that, well, so what, it was shit in the toilet, so what, there was, but no, it's not so what. It's like, this is a problem, and we teach people how to treat us. So when we act like, well, what do you expect? You're in the inner city, it's a hospital. No, I expect it to be the same as if I'm anywhere else, and I'm going to demand that. So now, I'm not going to sacrifice my care. So let me be clear about that.
You don't sacrifice your care, but you can't change what's in the toilet and what's all that going on. Some hospitals are going to really be dirty. They just maybe don't have the faculty people to clean it. You're going to be upset. Not every hospital is clean. The thing is that's very important is your treatment, your medical treatment. You can't get somebody to clean that toilet right now. You can't get this to do. It's the treatment that you get as a patient, period.
That's true. But Jacqueline, did you hear me say that when I went back to the bathroom 2 hours later, it was still the same?
Oh.
That's a problem. Okay. So the first time I went, and Richland, please unmute yourself and jump in. Okay. When I went for the first time, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, really? I didn't get nasty. I said, you all need to tend to that bathroom. Although in hindsight, I realized, it was dry feces, it was dry blood. We're in a hospital. Somebody should be checking those bathrooms regularly. And aren't we in COVID where they're telling you to wipe down, wipe down, wipe down? You're not wiping down in a hospital of all places when you know there are germs in the hospital, right?
That's why you don't use those toilets.
Helen,
I was
ladies.
there for 7 hours, Brenda. Go ahead, Richland.
Helen, I am there with you because the biggest problem as Black people, we take crap. The world gives us crap and we take it with a smile. And you're standing up for not only you, But for the next person who's coming into that hospital that shouldn't get that kind of care, it doesn't matter what kind of neighborhood, what your income level is, care should be of quality. And as
Right.
Black people, we all need to demand quality goods, service, and care. And when you don't stand up when you're being feeded mess, the next person gets that. And for your community to not allow people to treat you like dogs is what we all need to start doing. White people, if they walked into that bathroom, believe me, the
Lord.
top of the CEO will be getting a letter. And that's what we all need to start doing. When we walk into a facility and it is not up to standard for human beings, don't talk to the receptionist, write a letter to the CEO. And then ask anybody else who had that kind of experience to write a letter to the CEO. We should not accept below quality standard care. And what stressed Helen out is because she was given that kind of care. And that in her need for care, she had to be concerned, well, if I see the toilet so dirty, what kind of care am I going to get?
Exactly. That was the next thing I was going to say to Jacqueline.
That is unacceptable. And we as Black women and Black people, we have to stand up for our children. We have to be advocates for our husbands. When my husband goes to the hospital, I am there like a hawk. I am watching what kind of care he's getting. I had a situation where he went to the emergency room for he takes high blood pressure medicine, and he had an episode because we were getting poor quality care from a Hertz dealership, returning a car, and they were trying to put a fast one on us, and his blood pressure went up, and we had to call the ambulance. We went to the emergency room. He had forgotten to take his pill. We went to the emergency room. They hooked him up. They had the intake, find out what was wrong with him, hooked him up to everything, and was proceeding to go through whether he needs to be admitted. The first thing you should be doing when a person who takes high blood pressure pills says, I didn't take my pill and my pressure went up, you should give them a pill. They did not do that. And I'm standing there with them watching their care, but I'm assessing what they're doing that is not jiving. The next thing they wanted to do is give him morphine. That did not equate. And I said, wait a minute, do not give him any drugs. First of all, he's allergic to morphine. Do not give him any. How would you give a person who's coming in here for high blood pressure? And this is a quality hospital. I live in a white community, and still you will get bad service. So it doesn't matter it's a great hospital and everything, but the clinician, the caregivers, they're human beings. And everyone comes with their baggage. But that does not mean that you should get poor care. So Helen, I applaud you for being an advocate for yourself, but I always say, if you can, bring somebody with you to the emergency room, because
yeah.
I know if you can.
Oh, you know, I'm so bad. I'm single. I live alone. And I actually thought I talked to Lisa. She said, when were you in the hospital? Audrey, when were you in the hospital? Teresa, when were you? And my friend Teresa called me back today. And I just thought I told people, but I guess I didn't. And she was annoyed with me because she said, Helen, when you go to the hospital, you don't know whether you're going to come out. She said, I don't care what time it is, call me, text me something, tell me that you're going to the hospital and what hospital you're going to. And I said, you're right. I didn't even think about it. So forgive me, I forgot. But I guess I didn't. I was so perturbed, like as Jacqueline said, you know, I was more angry about the situation than I was just angry about the situation. And I think I told more people about that probably than I have been to the hospital. But I believe we teach people how to treat us. So when we look the other way, and when I called patient services, I had no interest in speaking to them. I said, I need the executive offices. Mm-hmm. But I was consoled by the fact that there was a Black woman. I said, I can hear that you're a sister or whatever. And she told me that she doesn't even come to there when she has an emergency, so that's a problem, right? So even your own employees aren't taken by your service. But so yeah, so I hear you. Lola, I see your hand. And also we want to get to the second part of this call, which is like checking in with us on a wellness tip, like where are we mentally? I think you saw in my email, I said one of my friends, I asked her how she was doing, and she's asked me something to the effect of, what do you mean? What shade of blue am I? So, and I can relate. I can relate because I've been kind of in a funk too. So I want us to talk a little bit about that. Just check in and see where everybody is. Lola, go ahead, please. You're muted, Lola. We can't hear you, hon.
Yeah. Can you
Okay.
hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that even when you live in a white neighborhood, you could still get a Black treatment in the hospital.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. So it might have been that.
Especially then.
You said what?
Especially then.
Exactly. Okay, and I was also gonna add that I agree with you, Helen. We teach people how to treat us, and if some of us don't want to say anything, maybe you can just support whoever is complaining, because I don't take anything that whatever I treat people. I want to be treated the way I treat people. So when I go to the motor vehicle, for instance. In the Black neighborhoods, there are always lines, and I would complain. And Black people would look at me as if I'm crazy sometimes.
Absolutely.
But we have to, make sure we don't take all this nonsense from
Let
people.
me ask you about that, Lola. Do you think, and that was what I said in the beginning, so the part of the problem is that there seems no incentive to give good service, but more disturbingly to me is that we don't have an expectation to receive the good service. So is that because we've never, this is like, this is all I know. Like, when I'm in the supermarket and it's 5 or 6 people in the line, and I see people walking around, I'm like you. I'm that person saying, what does it take for you guys to open up another line here? And it's almost like,
exactly.
Yes, but most of us don't do that. And it's usually just me.
No.
But we need to just be more, we need to be more comfortable with advocating for ourselves and just saying what we will and will not accept. But that's, I'm right there with you. Like, no, I demand the good service and I will write a letter in a heartbeat. And the interesting thing about this situation is when I went to look up the CEOs, the CEO for Cooper, they have the audacity to have 2. And I'm like, why would they have 2? They're 2 very young white men who I'm sure they're very young, but they're CEOs and there's a co-CEO. So I'm like, why would a hospital have 2 CEOs? Well, one, when I don't know if you all who live in Jersey, if you remember Bridgegate, he was a young, promising attorney, I'm assuming, and he got caught up in the Bridgegate crap, which was when the governor here in New Jersey was accused of setting up a situation. I'm telling people who aren't in New Jersey. Governor Christie, when governor, there was a situation where there was a backup created on the bridge here. Yeah. And it was said that it was because whoever the mayor of these cities was a Jersey city, but they didn't support him. So there was a real nasty case and it was called Bridgegate. Well, this guy was one of the Bridgegate people. And it seems as though-
in Bergen County.
I'm going to guess that's how he became. I mean, I looked at both of these guys. If they're 40, they're lucky, right? But here they are, young white guys, and they're CEOs of a hospital, co-CEOs. Yeah. So those were the 2 CEOs. So I have done that much research to see who are we dealing with here. But yeah. So go ahead. So my question to you, Lola, is that do you think it's because we just don't, many of us just don't know anything about good service, and this is what we've been used to all our lives, so that's what we expect? Or have we been conditioned that we just don't even know to complain? We don't even know that there's something better.
I know, I think we know what good service is, but we've just gotten to a point where we accept whatever is dished out to us. I think that's what's going on. Because when our people are more willing to complain against one of their own than they will complain. We are harder on our own people than we are on white people.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on how, do we not expect good service? Do we not understand what is good service? Are we just complacent?
I don't think that it's not so much that we're complacent, is that one of the things that we have to get to eventually is that those of us who do speak up, there's a price to pay. The price is that you don't sleep well at night. The price is that you take these issues to bed with you. The price is that hypertension gets worse as a result of us trying to address an issue that's much broader than ourselves. I read a study not long ago, maybe a few years ago, about the amount of stress that African-American women are under. And it's a stress that's coming from issues that you feel it pressing against you all the time, whether it's an assessment about your hair, about your skin color, about whether you can do a job, about whether somebody wants you in their presence as a Black person. And that even when you attempt to fight these things, you carry a degree of stress with you. And it's a stress, and there's lots of studies that show that the amount of stress that Black women in particular, that the amount of stress that we undergo and maintain on a daily basis is enough to kill a horse. It's just constantly bearing in. We are unaware of it in many ways, but it manifests itself in sleepless nights. It manifests itself in anxieties that seem to come out of nowhere, where you're thinking negative thoughts and you don't know why, because they seem to be irrelevant, but they have everything to do with the pressures that we're under. It's negative thoughts that cause about how people view us as human beings, not as Blacks and whites, just as human beings. The humanity they lacked when they talked to you and dealt with you in the hospital is enormous. This lack of humanity, of why we would leave you alone unattended when you came here because you were scared that something was wrong with your heart, the agent of your life, your heart. And the fact that you would then have to leave and sit there and experience a kind of internal tension that you couldn't put into words for another human being. And so for us having to understand, what is this tension? What kind of medications are we taking? Who gave us those medications? What did they say they were for? And a great deal of it has to do with the tension, the pressure that's on us all the time. When I first met you, Higgy, you and I started talking about an issue that was going on in your job, how you were treated. And I left talking to you in a tense space. So we share all these ideas, but even when I was telling you about what happened with me in a job situation, I was near tears. And I tell you, I know that a lot of us are living every day with instances that we may rework that cause us pain and cause us tears. We got a lot to work for, and I think we still need to meet like this. We still need to structure dialogues and conversations so that we can all talk about these issues. Nobody should go through what you did. I've gone through things like that. And I remember just recently, and then I'll finish. Recently, I had to have a CAT scan of the pelvic area. And so while I was on the table half naked, I happened to say to the young white girl who said to me, I said, how long have you been doing this job? She says, not too long. She looked very young. I said, oh. I said, just casually, what do you think about, she had the probe on me. I said, what do you think about what happened at the Capitol? And she said, oh, that's just like another Black Lives Matter thing. And I said, oh, they're hiding in plain sight.
Well, you say that, but the thing that we must, let me tell you something, one of the things that we all need to deal with, getting to that point, when we talk about the 74 million Americans voted for racism.
Hello.
Those 74 million people are your doctors. They're your
Hello.
They're your
And
next door neighbors.
Exactly.
They're your co-workers, and
And
they
they
are
have-
in plain sight.
Yeah.
and they're hiding in
And we
plain
need to
sight.
be very conscious of when we're dealing with them. I mean, I've got so many doctor stories. I've only been here for 2 years, and I have another doctor. I have so many doctor stories, but one of them, I went to a ophthalmologist to get a second opinion from another ophthalmologist. All he seemed to be concerned with was confirming what the first ophthalmologist told me, which that's not why I'm here. He was so dismissive to me that I came home and I wrote a blog, about the 74 million. And I said, I saw a doctor today and I'm quite sure that he's one of the 74 million. And here's a kick. So now I go to another doctor, get another opinion. I have a condition that he didn't diagnose, and he is an ophthalmologist. So I am like through. And IA, I'm not sure who IA is, but you can get your records because it's all online for you. Whatever doctor you go to, there's a portal, you can go in and read your records. When I read my records, this guy said that I had diabetes. I have never told him I'm Black, and because of COVID, I was already over. Now I'm overweight and whatever. So you assume that I have diabetes? Oh, I went off. I went ballistic on these people. I said, this man was condescending. He didn't, what they couldn't get around was the fact that I was diagnosed with a condition that he didn't even pick up because he didn't really examine me. And he indicates that I have diabetes, and I don't. I've never had diabetes, knock on wood, And so they're telling me they're not sure they can, remove that from my file. I said, I'm pretty sure that you are going to remove some false medical information about me from my file. But here we are. Go ahead, 301.
I wanted to, this is Brenda, and I wanted to kind of confirm what you are saying, Helen, about your record and them putting entries into your records that are not true. It seems to be a trend going on that African Americans are having records show up as high blood pressure, which never existed. They never knew about diabetes and so forth. I highly recommend that everybody, when you go for your annuals and you have your blood work, to go online and get a copy, print off your blood work and study it. You will be surprised at what may be in your records that you never even heard of. You'll tell the doctor you drink green tea every morning. They'll have in your records that you drink coffee 2 or 3 times a day. So it's in your best interest to pay attention to your records. Now, a lot of times they will not remove anything from your records, but you still have to write to them and have appended to your records your challenge to what has been presented. The next thing is, I highly recommend that you...
They sent me copies, am I correct? Because I think when they heard, there's something about the L word, the lawyer word.
You got it right.
They think you're going to sue them. So they took, not only did they take, they're like, is anything else you want, Ms. Higginbotham? Like, yeah, I should sue your ass. How about that? But no, I'm just never coming back. I guess you don't want to see another doctor in our practice. I said, you're absolutely right.
Hyman, can I say something?
Yes.
Can I say something? I see it right here. Say something. When you are a patient, so-called patient, are you a patient or a lawyer?
I'm a patient.
Okay.
I don't tell them I'm a lawyer. I don't tell doctors.
So what I was saying is, it's not that you don't want good service. I said you need to take care of yourself. Think about yourself, your heart, and the service that you're getting for that. Negate all that other outside stuff about the dirt, the toilet, all that kind of stuff. And another thing, I wanted to say something concerning Peggy, please, if I can.
Sure.
I don't ask any technicians. I don't say to any technicians, to any doctors, any nurses, any social thing going on. I don't mention about religion. I don't talk about what's in the news because I don't want to hear their opinion. I don't care about their opinion. I want to be treated. That's all I can say. I never talk about social things or religion to medical technologists doctors, nurses, or anything like that. Because what they think, I don't care. I'm there to be taken care of.
And I think you're absolutely right. What I thought that I was, because I have been following all of these happenings so closely, that it was imperative for me to ask this person who I didn't, you know how you have a certain feel about a person? And I was trying to see if I could get a handle on that, but you're absolutely right. And what I was feeling was this was a person that would rather not be touching me. That's the feeling that I had. And I wanted to verify that feeling by just saying, what do you think about? What do you think about what happened at the Capitol? Oh, it was just, those Black Lives Matter. I said, oh, and that was my response. And and it reaffirmed for me what I have thought all along, is that these people are cowards and they are hiding in plain sight. And when I thought that what we have to do,
that we're trusting them. We're trusting them to serve us, however it may be, because they're the judge that's hearing your case, because they're the doctor that's treating you, because it's the police officer that just stopped you, because it's the person who supervises you in the workplace. You are trusting that these people are doing that stuff at home, but that's not the case. We have two hands up. I'm Rich, I'm gonna come to you in a second, but Judy just raised her hand. Judy, what's your thoughts?
So I have a couple of thoughts. One is, does anybody call their doctors by their first name?
no.
Nobody?
No, I don't.
So the way I grew up, doctors are actually almost like gods, right? When I moved here, and I think I probably was in my 20s or something, and ended up having to go see a doctor. And I was doing my respectful thing and saying doctor. And he said, no, call me Craig. And apparently that's what everybody else does. Everybody else has the doctor on their own level. So I think sometimes when we're talking about, what do we expect from the physicians? What do we expect from the hospitals? If we don't know what the level is, then we're going to sort of go with it. If we don't know, we think whatever we're getting is probably the best service, and it's probably not. If I don't think any of us would not report something if we weren't getting the level we thought we should get. And since most of us don't do that,
I think
maybe stick with what it is.
I think most of us don't report. Honestly, that's why it happens. Because and that's my thought. Does anybody disagree with that?
I have two doctors, and you can call me Dr. Bertram.
But no. The question
that's a different doctor.
Do you all think that do you think that Black people report these incidents? That's the question that's on the table.
No,
we don't.
No.
Yeah, that's why. And whether it's in a hospital, whether it's in the restaurant, whether it's in the stores that we shop in, I just think that there's just this expectation that we don't deserve whatever treatment, service, and we don't demand it. And when we do, people look at you like, well, what's wrong with you? Everybody else is fine with me treating them this way. Like, no, it's not cool. It's not cool.
I just have one other quick comment. And I think when you started this whole conversation, you wanted us to sort of talk about how we're dealing with much of this.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I am obviously at a different stage and now where a lot of things are actually happening medically, which probably could have been averted earlier on. And so what I try to do for some of the things that I can't do to help myself anymore is to inform younger people, because like people like my parents never complained about anything. I mean, they had all their problems and we never even knew what they had. And so we didn't even know to prepare for some of these things. And so if we can help the younger folks when we see them not doing the right things, not exercising, not eating properly, not doing any of those things, to help get them on that path, even though I think a lot of young people are now better at that than we were. I think that's a good thing. And for us, I think one of the best ways to reduce the cost of our healthcare, which is going to be the highest cost at this parts of our lives,
Yeah.
is to do the whole thing, the diet, the exercise. And the exercise stuff doesn't require 2 hours in a gym. It requires just 25 to 45 minutes. And it doesn't have to be strenuous or anything. I just read a report on people who live to 90, and that's what they do.
Yeah, and that leads, I see Tracy put that in the chat. And she eats ridiculous, but anyway, we should be eating and resting. I mean, how many people on this call get 7 hours of sleep? I don't. I'm lucky.
I do.
Yeah, I don't. I'm lucky if I get 4 or 5.
I do.
No, I can't handle 4 or 5.
I know. And
I get 7 hours.
I want to know how many people take medications to sleep.
That's true. Oh, I just sleep.
No.
No.
I do
take
not.
no medication.
This is what I take.
I take no medications either.
What is that, Jacqueline?
I take lavender capsules.
Lavender capsules? Okay.
Well,
Yeah, it's called by Integrative Therapeutics.
have you ever tried? Okay.
It's clinically studied lavender oil.
Okay.
Have you ever tried lavender tea?
No, I have not. But I tried lavender oil capsules.
Okay.
If I can't sleep, only during the night, if I feel I can't sleep, I'm agitated, maybe something's on my mind, things like that. But
I have to tell you all a funny story. I went to Costco and I remember when the COVID thing first started, they told you, make sure you have Tylenol. I don't know why. You were just buying anything they told you to buy. So one was, I don't know, $10, another one was $8. I picked up the one that was $8 and kept it moving. So I woke up one morning, I had just a slight little headache, nothing major, but I said, let me, and I always, if they say 2, I always take 3. That's just what I do, right? So I popped 3 of these pills that I think are Tylenol. And we have a standing 9:30 conference call, and I can't stay awake. And I'm like, what? I just woke up. Why am I so sleepy? I don't know why I'm so sleepy. So I reach out to one of my colleagues. I'm like, look, I don't know what's going on with me for some reason. And, and you're thinking, do I have COVID? Oh my God, I'm so sleepy. Why am I sleepy, right? So I called my colleague. I said, look, if I'm not awake, call me at 9. I said, I can't stay awake. I don't know why. Like, call me if I'm not on the 9:30 call, right? And I still don't, and she doesn't call me, which really pissed me off. They didn't, I think I was on the 9:30 call, and I said, if there's anything after this, please call me because I can't stay awake. I don't know what's happening here, right? Anyway, I checked my, at some point, I look at the bottle of what I bought, and it was Tylenol PM. I don't take anything to fall asleep. I just go to sleep. So, but I now know that if I have to go to sleep, I can just pop some Tylenol PM and I'm going to sleep. But that was funny, I thought.
I have one question, and that is, how many people take omeprazole for, oh my gosh, for acid reflux?
No.
I don't take any.
Nobody has acid
I take is
reflux?
vitamin D.
No.
Vitamin D is the only thing I would take. I had a torn meniscus recently. I did not take any medication for it. There's a tea for everything. There's a herb, there's hardly anything you can't take care of.
I agree.
She's the herb lady. So we have two hands up. Richland's hand is up, and we're going to go to you quickly, and then Ms. Cox, you're asking how do you raise your hand. So for everybody, I guess we never explain this, assuming that people know. If you go to the top of your square, and you'll see 3 little dots on the right-hand side. When you click those dots, one of those will give you the option to raise your hand. Is that right? Or do you go to the bottom of the screen?
I think you go to the bottom.
To the bottom.
No, you're right.
I'm on the phone. Is there a way to raise your hand when you're on the phone?
Oh, you just have to let us know you want to talk.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's cool. So Richland, go ahead, and then Ms. Cox. And then I want us to talk just a few minutes about where we are Emotionally where everybody is, because all of this is related, right? When you talk about the stress, these are things in our lives that bring about stress. And I think on top of all else that we're dealing with, it just seems overwhelming. Oh, let me speak for myself. And, for me, I feel like I love to travel. Like I said, some people do drugs. I do airplanes. So, and I haven't been on an airplane in 2 years. So I know that that's what's bothering me, so that's my escapism. I don't drink, I don't do any of that, but I love I don't cook. So my socialization is, hanging out with people or hanging out by myself. But so everything just kind of changed for me. And for a year, you're like, okay, next year will be better. 2021 was no better than 2020 in terms of all of that and all of the, the get vaccinated, don't get vaccinated, wear your mask, don't wear your mask. It's just so much. You can fly this week, you can't fly next week. It's just crazy stuff. And so I'm feeling just really overwhelmed and finding it hard to stay motivated to do almost anything. I meet with you ladies because I love you, but some days it's just like a painted smile. But you do give me, sisters do give me life. That's why
Oh, Jacqueline, how are you? I'm on the Zoom.
So that's why we do what we do here. But I'm not alone. I spoke with a couple of my friends and they were in the same place. And like I said earlier, I was just really happy that we were able to be vulnerable and share with each other how we were feeling. Now, I have plenty of other friends who have just made a wonderful, they've written books, they, cleaned out the garage, they've used this time very productively. I saw one of my doctors and I was in a funk and I just had to let her know, like, this ain't got nothing to do with you. I'm just having a bad day. It's nothing to do with you. And she was so nice. It's a white doctor too, like really in the same office as Camille Green, who is a Black doctor. We were done my exam and I just wanted her to know that even though I wasn't as friendly, when I said I just wasn't as friendly as I normally am, but I wanted her to know like, it ain't about you. It's just, this is me. And, I saw her still sitting there and I said, are you trying to cheer me up? And she said, is it working? And I thought that was really nice. That's what you expect a doctor to do, right? And, but she also told me that she never stopped traveling. She said, I've traveled every month since this thing. I refuse to let it do to me what it's doing to you. And Lisa said that to me when I spoke with her the other day. So, that's just where I am. And so anyway, so I want us to talk a little bit about that and just check in and make sure everybody else is okay. And what are you doing? Also, where Tracy said we need to be eating, exercising. Somebody stole my bike, so I stopped exercising. It's just a mess.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
No excuse, but that's where I am. So I don't know if that's what Ms. Cox wanted to talk about or Ms. Richland. But go ahead, Richland.
Okay.
And then Cox and then Myra from Georgia again. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to follow up with Jacqueline about because you spoke out, the stress it brought on you when you were looking for care. Something I learned after being married to my husband. In our relationship, he would always voice when something is wrong. If he didn't like the way I cooked something, blah, blah, blah. He would always voice whatever is bothering him. On the other hand, I came from a West Indian family. My family, everything was fine, even though pain was going on. We were angry at brothers, sisters. Everything was fine. His family, when something bothered them, they verbalized it. And what I found between the two family, the stress level was more with my family because we kept things in. And if something was bothering us, we just smiled and said everything was okay. And what Helen did in this situation was de-stressed herself because things were bothering her. And we as Black people have to learn when we don't like something, sometimes it's very therapeutical for us to release that stress by saying what's wrong and stop keeping it in, because that in itself is a bigger weight on us than us telling people what's wrong, how they're treating us wrong. That's a better release of stress than keeping it in and acting like everything is fine.
You said
That-
it for because when she said that was what I intended to say. We got away from it. When I don't speak on it, I'm so annoyed with myself that I allow somebody to treat me. And mind you, I don't speak on everything, but if it's a big enough issue like this and I don't speak on it, that bothers me more than the fact that I threw a hissy fit. You know, I'm not gonna, or that I did, I'm sorry that I didn't say it. I cannot let it go. Yeah, because you let the stress go,
Right.
let it go.
Well,
Right.
Concern, my opinion is everybody's different.
And
Everybody's different.
yes,
That's true.
I
that's
feel
that's
that
true. That's true. But
everybody's different.
That's true.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not to
And
say-
I just
it's not to say that once you get out of the hospital, because if I was in that situation, I would hopefully I'll be all right, take care of myself, get out, and then I will complain. But I want to make sure that whatever is going on in the hospital with those things are not stressing me. The important thing, what I think, is to get yourself the good service that you need so you can get out.
But when you're laying, but and we could go on and we could go on this, but honestly, when you're laying, when I'm in if I'm laying in a bed and nobody's coming in to check on me and I got to go to the bathroom, that's stressful. That's stressful.
Yeah,
and at one point, but that it's just like everybody, you said, everybody's going to deal with this in their own kind of way. And you know, I could have performed in the hospital, but I didn't. And I dealt with it as I saw fit, and then I dealt with it afterwards as I saw fit. But when you're in substandard conditions, I think it's impossible not to question whether or not you're getting substandard service. So there's the stress, whether you want to deal with it or not.
Right. Talking about what's going on right now. Yes, I did reach a point in this pandemic where I was in a slump, and I felt it getting up day to day. I felt like I was on a treadmill, just getting nothing done. And that was my slump. Exercise has helped. And Helen, get yourself a stationary bike.
Out the living room.
I have one in front of the TV.
I have a 3-wheel bike that I ride.
Yeah.
If you, fortunately, it's almost impossible to tip it over. So it's very comfortable, you know, riding it. And so riding something like that. But I do know that I have been in a slump. I'm trying to complete a book. The press is, University of Mississippi Press is waiting for it. They want to publish it. And I've been writing on it for years, a woman I've been researching. And so, you know, the reviewers have given me comments and what have you. So one reviewer gave me comments 12 pages worth, and another one gave me 2 pages. And so when I got them, I was mortified, you know, and so I'm under an enormous pressure that I put myself under.
Right.
And, you know, trying to take care
very
of it.
Very often it's self-imposed.
Yeah, very often. Nobody did anything to me.
But I think what's happening, even if it is self-imposed, is so prolonged at this point.
Yeah.
And what do we do? So Ms. Cox, are you still with us? I know you want to.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Go ahead, Ms. Cox.
You know, parenthetically, I heard you on WBAI radio with Gloria J. Brown Marshall. And you guys were talking about traveling, which was so interesting. Yes.
Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that.
Yes. And yeah, I listen to her all the time. Yeah, because I'm right here in New York City.
Okay.
Last year I renewed my passport, by the way.
Oh, good. Keep those. Everybody should be renewing their passport. Everybody. Don't ever let it expire.
Right. And so, you know, just remind everybody about the mind-body connection, you know, which is very strong. What I wanted to talk about was the medical profession and the care that my mom received, or lack of care that she received. My mom passed away about 16 years ago or so. But she called me one day, and we were just chatting, and she just said, by the way, I've had a coughing spell for a couple of weeks. And she said it nonchalantly. And so I said, is your doctor open tomorrow? She said, yeah. I said, I want you to call and make an appointment to see him tomorrow, because, you know, just get that checked out. So she went to the doctor, and she called me back when she got home. And she said that he recommended an over-the-counter cough medicine, right? Which my mother could have figured out on her own, right? And I've been with her to this doctor before, and she lived in Jersey City. And the waiting room was always packed with people, but it's just incredible. I mean, the money issue, more patients you get, the more money you get, So anyway, I was dissatisfied with this over-the-counter cough medicine. So I looked up a pulmonary specialist in Jersey City who was in her insurance plan. And so she went to see him, and I went to park the car, and when I came back, she was already in with him. So, I said to my mother, what did he do? So she said, he made another appointment for me to come back and he'll do some tests or whatever. So that he had done some tests, right? So, so when she had the appointment to go back to him, I left New York and I went to Jersey City to go with her. And again, I had to find parking space. So when I came back into in his office, she was already in there with him in the back. So she comes out and I'm waiting in the waiting room. And I said, what did he say? She said, he didn't see anything. There's nothing wrong with me. And then just a few minutes, we're talking in the waiting room. He comes out of his office into the waiting room and he says to my mother, I thought I told her you could go home, in that voice, right? So I said to him, well, you don't have to worry. We're not planning to spend the night, okay? And I said, and if you have a problem with my mother sitting here in your office as a patient, I said, you need to really check yourself out, right? So we left, and we went home or whatever. And so to make a long story short, my mother I was visiting her one weekend and I noticed that she had trouble walking and she's walking with a cane. And I said, Mom, what are you doing walking with a cane? What's the matter? She says, oh, I don't know. I just not feeling well. And I'm having problems with my, walking without, just balance to be particular, So that weekend we went to Jersey City, we went to Atlantic City, and I noticed that she had a problem like walking from the street up on the sidewalk, gauging, like how to walk from the sidewalk to the curb and from the curb to the sidewalk. And then we walked along the boardwalk for a while and she wasn't walking too well. And we sat down by the slot machine and I had to hold her to gauge her where the seat was in front of the slot machine, And I said, something is terribly wrong, Mom. So, and she didn't have an appetite or anything like that. And so we get home that night and I said, Mom, you sure you're okay? She said, yeah, I'm fine. So middle of the night, she wakes up to go to the bathroom and I'm sleeping in her room in the other bed. And I'm watching her all night because I'm not sleeping and I'm very nervous. And she says that she has to go to the bathroom. She's okay, right? So I'm waiting. She didn't get up to go to the bathroom. So I go around to her bed and I said, do you need help getting up? She said, yeah, just a little. So I stand her up and then I said, okay, and she's still standing there. And I said, Mom, you said you had to go to the bathroom. She said, yeah. She couldn't walk at that point. She like the message didn't get to her brain how to move one foot in front of the other. So I just went to the bathroom real quickly and got a pail for her to pee in. And then I called the ambulance, called 911, and the ambulance came. They took her to the hospital. She was in the emergency room. And they ran a whole lot of tests and they admitted her. It turned out that she had brain cancer, okay? It started in the lungs and it had already, 6 weeks later, my mother was dead, okay? And the cancer that was in her lungs had already spread to her brain and that's what killed her. But that doctor, that lung specialist, and then her GP, who was also her cardiac doctor, just saying that, like, oh, take some over-the-counter cough medicine and dismissing her. And then the specialist, the lung specialist, yelling at her in the waiting room and saying he didn't see anything. Meanwhile, the cancer was there and she was already dead.
Let me ask you, Ms. Cox, did you ever circle back with that? Do you file a lawsuit?
That never occurred to me,
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. Could you guys hear me?
Yeah, I heard you said something about a lawsuit?
Did you ever circle back with that doctor or consider that you had a lawsuit?
No, it never occurred to me.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, I'm so sorry you had that experience, but and we could go on and on, I think, about the medical profession. My mother died in 1987. And I remember vividly on the 10th Mother's Day that I woke up without a mother. I sat down and wrote a letter to 2 of her doctors. And I guess they got it, but I told them that they owed my mother, who had the best of insurance, who could have gone anywhere. I never felt that they gave her good service, and I told them why, which is a whole nother story. But I wrote them, and I said, as I welcome another, as I, or spend or receive, and I still have the letter, as I receive another Mother's Day without a mother, I'm compelled to share this, that, and the other with you. So yeah, and I think that happens all the time. So I'm so sorry that happened. But again, we have to be proactive. And back then, in 87, we didn't have access to records and things of that nature. So yeah, and ironically, the hospital that I was in and the emergency room is the same hospital that my mother died in.
Oh no! Oh my
yeah, but that's not the hospital that those doctors were on staff at. But I just said that as an irony.
Yeah, my mother's first primary doctor was an Indian man, and then the specialist, quote unquote, the lung specialist was a white man, and
so I put it,
attitude.
I don't know if you all remember early in the COVID situation, a Dr. Susan Moore, she was a Black doctor. She was on a gurney telling her colleagues what was wrong with her and what she needed. They didn't do it. She recorded, made a video. I don't know if you all remember, she made a video of it. And she said, this is how they treat Black people in the hospital, blah, 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 blah. And she ended up dying. So I put it in the chat if you want to Google it and look at the video from that. So we're going to take a few more and then we're going to be done here. You guys have been, you ladies have been wonderful. Thank you for your time and your conversation. I see Myra's hand is up, but we've heard from her already. Is there anybody who hasn't spoken who has something that they want to share on either of the subjects, whether it's, and we've talked a lot about the medical doctors, but it's just service wherever we are. Does anybody have anything they want to share? If not, we're going to hear from Myra again.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I couldn't find my where to raise the hand. I was looking for the 3 dots. How you doing?
I'm good, good.
Okay, so we were talking, we were trying to get to, where we are now, our wellness and all of that. And I want to share that I went to a spiritual masseuse on Thursday. She was phenomenal.
Where at?
Here in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
Yes, she was absolutely phenomenal. She only does either 90 minutes or 120 minutes because she cannot do it correctly in less than that. So, and the woman is 68 and you would think she was 48, or 28. She's just absolutely amazing. But I say that to say the stress that we're all under obviously is compounded by the pandemic, but my stress is compounded by not so much the pandemic, because I'm really okay with being home. I can work from home and the whole 9, I'm good. But it's the things that have arisen over the last 2 years that I cannot get finalized, settled, or completed because of the pandemic. This facility is closed, that building is closed, you can't come in here, you have to do only emails, so everything takes 10 times longer to get done. And I say that about the masseuse because when she completed my massage, I asked her for an assessment. So, tell me, what do you think? I know that I'm in pretty rough shape. And she says, well, on a scale of 0 to 10, you're a 20.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, that just goes to show I take care of my 93-year-old father, who really is relatively independent, but nonetheless, I still have to do almost everything for him. I'm still trying to settle my brother's estate who passed in May of 2020. That has been a nightmare because he was in New Jersey, and New Jersey is a nightmare to die in. If you're going to die, get out of New Jersey because they're not so. Okay. So that's going on and all of that. And I'm still trying to keep my head above water and work and keep my home and my car and all that good stuff. So it's been a challenge just trying to get done normal day-to-day situations that have been compounded by the pandemic. And I'm going to continue. In fact, I've already made my next appointment with her. She said, you know, continue, we'll work through it. And I had a pain in my left arm that wouldn't go away for like 2-3 months. It's gone. It's gone. So, I mean, she was amazing. She's hard to get an appointment for, but I'm blessed. And I'm going back in December. I mean, on the 22nd, I think.
All right, wonderful. That's important. I haven't done it lately, but they have in Philly a Korean day spa, even though I said I was not going to support some businesses, but you know, you can go there and just, and I haven't even taken a moment to do that, but it's the same thing. You can just stay there all day if you need to and just pamper yourself. But
I'm proud to say this is a sister and Basima Shakir, and she's just absolutely phenomenal. And her spirit is so humble and sweet and generous. The minute you walk in the door, you start to feel the essence of who she really is. And the experience just goes, you know, into the stratosphere from there.
So can you leave her contact information for us in the chat for those of us who might be in Atlanta? And if not, maybe there's someone even in the areas that we're in. I've never heard of a spiritual masseuse, so I love it.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I thought there was someone's hand up, but I don't see them anymore, so maybe they left.
Helen, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. This is Max, and I don't know how to work my phone properly. I was driving, and now I'm in Greensboro. But I just wanted to say I really appreciate the conversation tonight, on both ends, because one, we are victims only if we allow ourselves to be a victim. I will not allow anyone to disrespect me or treat me below the standard that I think I deserve. And I am all of that and a bag of chips, and I love myself. So if they don't want to just treat me, I'll tell them, excuse me, is there someone else that can assist me? Because obviously you're having a bad day, or obviously you don't know me, or obviously you just don't want to be here. So I have put people in their place, but normally what I do is just the opposite. I try to kill them with kindness. I say, good morning, how are you today? Ma'am, what do you need? What do you need? And I said, first of all, I need for you to greet me. I said, good morning. I said, how are you today? This is my name. This is what I need. Can you assist me? This is where I was told to come. You know, and I understand that a lot of people, maybe not doctors, but a lot of other people, they don't have high paying jobs. But whatever your job is, you need to do it to the best of your ability and treat me like the queen that I am. And as far as stress, oh, baby, it's definitely real. It's definitely real. And if you don't feel any stress whatsoever, I kind of have to care about you, because it's hard not to be empathetic with so many people dying, so much tragedy, so much whatever. I've been blessed to not experience it directly. I have a heart for all those people who just suffered this storm. I have a heart for all those people who perished with this COVID stuff that could have been handled so much differently. They have brothers, mothers, sisters, fathers. My godson perished. My girlfriend's mother and father perished. I have other people who have perished. So I'm still here, but by the grace of God. And I'm going to kill people with kindness. That's all I have to say. I'm sorry, Helen.
Oh, that's fine. That's good. That's good advice as well. Absolutely. Flip the script on people. All right.
And then also, this is Lisa, also have an attitude of gratitude. When you wake up every morning, if you just think outside of yourself, get outside of yourself sometimes, that helps a lot. I know that some people might not hear that, you know, if you're so depressed, you might not be able to receive that. But at some point, if you just get up every morning and just thank who your higher power is, because you're thanking somebody. You know, somebody's always say, "Oh, I'm just grateful." No, you're thanking somebody or some higher power. I'm thanking Jesus. But you know, you need to have that as a daily, you know, mantra. And also watch what you say. Watch your words. You speak over yourself. If you're gloomy and doomy, and that's what's going to come over you. So, you know, you have to speak life over yourself. You have to maintain your joy. Don't let people take your joy. Don't let people take your peace. Peace is not underrated.
That is true.
So, you know, you have to cultivate that. You know, you have to rehearse that. It doesn't come automatically. For those of you, you know, who are Christians, you know, get into the word. If you're Muslim, get into the word and find those scriptures that bolster your strength, you know, your joy, your peace, your health, and all of that, you know. I know it's hard, you know, we all get in a funk, but some of us can get out of quicker if we have something inside of us, a foundation inside of us. So I just wanted to share that with you. One of my scriptures is Philippians 4:6-8. You know, be anxious for nothing, you know, with prayer and supplication, make your requests known, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your heart and mind through Christ Jesus. You have to kind of say it to yourself, rehearse it to yourself.
And another one is Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you. So if my creator has plans for me, that woman behind the receptionist desk, she's not going, it doesn't matter what kind of funk she's in. It doesn't matter what her issue or problem is. I'm here to be served and waited on.
Exactly. So it is our attitude.
I wanted to speak to, and you brought it up, be very careful what these doctors are putting in your record. My doctors, I saw depression. I'm like, depression? When did I get depressed? He says, well, if you have a chronic illness, you're probably depressed. So we need, I think they really need as many codes as they can in order to justify payment from the insurance company. I said, excuse me, depressed people are hopeless. They're sad. They're in a dark place. That's not me. I am not hopeless. I am not sad. I am not in a dark place. I said, I am not depressed, but what I am is I'm stressed. And I can tell you I'm stressed because we're in the middle of a doggone global pandemic that didn't have to be. I said, I'm stressed because I'm helping to take care of my 90-year-old mother with dementia, and they could have probably cured that long time ago. I'm stressed because I have an illness that you all are not treating properly. Yeah, I'm stressed, but I'm not depressed because I know who I am and whose I am. So I want that off. And he has not taken that out of my medical records. I said, I would think that a psychiatrist or a psychologist is somebody, but not a rheumatologist is going to tell me I'm depressed. You don't know my story, mister. You don't know my God.
Yeah.
All good. Yeah. Sometimes it's necessary to change doctors.
Oh, yeah.
Don't hesitate to change doctors, because if I don't trust you as my doctor, I'm not going back to you. We're talking about my life here. So we shouldn't, and you know, when it comes to whether to go to a Black or white doctor, since Trump's, since the election, I've just broken down, I broke it down mathematically. I'm like, okay, if 7 out of 10 white men voted for this guy, that means when I go to a doctor, I mean, I'm taking a chance. So I just don't take a chance like that anymore. Right now, I don't go to white doctors because I've noticed.
It doesn't matter.
Well, but also
it doesn't matter whether you're going to a white or Black doctor. They're all doing the same things right now, and mostly they're putting things in your records that are incorrect. You can't just change doctors. I mean, you can do it. However, you need to write the letter and have it appended to your record, because your record stands still. No matter where you go, that record is going to follow. So you have to mitigate by writing your objection, your challenge, or whatever it is.
Yeah, but I'm not talking specifically. I'm not talking specifically about the false information they put on my chart. I'm talking about my health care. Because if somebody is racist, I can't trust that person with my life. So, and I don't want to take a chance of, just guessing whether the person is racist or not. So if I'm going to go to a doctor.
The Black people are not racist. They are money hungry. This is not about color. This is about money. For every prescription that these doctors write, they get paid, and they don't care whether they get paid off a white person or a Black person. So you have to take
it is about race. I mean, yes, it's about money. That's for
Everything in America is about race.
Yeah, but let me share the opioid epidemic. For once, racism served Black people well. Because they don't think we're human, because they don't think we really experience pain, fewer of us were given prescriptions for opioids. And that's why the epidemic around opioids is considered an epidemic. Because they overprescribed for white people. They didn't ask questions, they just gave them the prescriptions.
That's right, had nothing to do with racism.
But I'm just saying, but no, it is something to do with racism, because Black people who were really in pain were allowed to suffer in pain. That's my point.
You got that right. And
they don't think we're human. And they've even done studies with doctors who, and even in this day and age, still believe that somehow Black people have a higher tolerance for pain than other people.
Yeah.
So when we go to the doctors and say that we're in pain, they think we're running a game trying to get some drugs. No, that's that white.
Right.
That's the white person you just gave all those opioid prescriptions to without any protocol whatsoever. So that's why it's an epidemic. Yeah. Otherwise, it'd be crackheads and we'd be treated differently. So race is always an issue. Money is always an issue. It's America. It's capitalism. It's racism. One and or, both one or the other or both of them is always at play.
Yeah, but you started off saying we're going to talk about consumerism. Nothing's more important than looking and vetting your medical providers while you're healthy or while you're not in a stressful, situation. I call doctor's office and ask about them. I look up their educational background, and then when I meet with them, I want them to be on the same page I'm on. I don't like a lot of drugs. So, like, I'm not taking these drugs. So, like, what's your position? You okay with that? Or you going to tell me something different? You can vet them. We assume we have to walk in and take anything. No, don't.
Right.
Most of us stop, that we have insurance. You can shop around.
And if a doctor gives you pushback when you're asking questions or advocating for yourself, that's another red flag. This is not the doctor for me.
Right.
And that was the same thing with Dr. Green. She was upset that I didn't want a flu shot. I haven't had a flu shot in 20 years. And rather her asking me as an intelligent woman, as a patient, like, oh, so tell me why you don't want the flu shot. She went into this whole diatribe about and she says, people, I understand about Black people, what we think. Like, look, and so that was the first red flag with her. So I already had a little issue with her. So now you don't tell me that this is the one visit, the next visit, you don't tell me that you see fluid around my heart. And then you're kind of pissed because I'm asking you about it. So anyway, that was it for her. That was it. But years ago, I was living in DC. There was a women's what was between insurance company, a job. So I had to find, a new insurance company. I needed to find a new doctor. My friend told me to go to this GYN. I went to him. I wasn't even 40 yet. I could still have babies if I wanted to. So I go in his office and he doesn't ask me anything about myself. I'm on the birth control pill. He's telling me how, I don't need to be on the pill. I can have this procedure. And I remember he held up a pen and he said, the incision will be this long. We'll go in through your navel. Now I know he's talking about tubal ligation, but I'm trying to think, how did we get here? Because maybe I And the thing is that for most women in New Jersey, I don't know if it's still the case, but you couldn't even get a tubal ligation if you wanted to because it was, you're too young, you don't have your doctor's appointment, your husband's approval, all this crazy stuff. And here's this white man trying to tell me to get my tubes tied when we know that there's this push to sterilize Black women. So I'm sitting here thinking, is this guy like crazy? He puts me on, he gets a call, he takes a call, he excuses himself, takes a call, and it's somebody he's getting ready to meet at the hospital to do a DNC. And so I leave the office, I call my girlfriend, I'm like, what's up with your doctor? And she said, why? And I said, because, he's telling me I need to get my tubes tied. And she said, well, what's wrong with you? I said, nothing, there's nothing wrong with me. And then I called my white girlfriend, who is the exact same age as me. I asked her, and she was on the birth control pill too. I said, has any doctor ever suggested that you have your tubes tied? And she said no. And she was a white woman and she knew exactly where he was coming from.
Mhm.
And then I was speaking to a white woman about it on an airplane, my favorite second place to be. And she said, oh, honey, how old was he? I said, I don't know, maybe in his 60s. And she said, he's on his second marriage. He's got kids in college. He's got alimony. She said he's a, oh, what did she say? She said he's a, oh my goodness. Basically, he was looking for money, but she said he's a procedure hoe. And that's
Oh.
yes. In her
Yeah.
mind, he was just looking for money.
Mhm.
But
Me
I-
too. That's exactly what they're looking for. Money's the game right now.
The problem is
Yeah,
that
but
this is
he
in
picked
Washington.
a black woman. He
But this
picked a black woman to perform that procedure on.
Exactly. But this is the problem. He's in Washington, D.C., which was very chocolate back then. So most of his patients were probably Black women. He was at, and I can't remember, Brenda, whatever that women's hospital was. It was Columbia or something. He was
Columbia Hospital for Women. I had both of my
That's
kids
all
there.
it was women. And I remember thinking, how many women have come into his office, didn't question what he said because he's a doctor and had their tubes tied or, you know, or just whatever the case may be. So we have got to. Now, what I didn't do that I should have done, I kept his card for a long time because I wanted to report him. And I felt like, man, you know, you're dealing with women in DC who are educated, largely educated, and we all know that y'all trying to sterilize us. And here's this man trying to convince me to get my tubes tied. So I'm just saying, it's always about race. It's always about money, and one or both, one or the other or both. So yeah. And that was back in that had to be, well, it was in the 90s because I was still in childbearing age. Like, how dare you? How dare you? For me. So. Anyway.
So I raised my hand because I noticed in the chat that some people wanted to talk about consumerism, and I thought maybe, I don't know if we have time for it.
Well, it's basically what we were talking about. It just so happens that we got stuck on the medical side of it, but it's all about consumerism, you know, and then I think the other thing that we need to think about too is for those of us who are in business, you know, how do we treat each other? How do we treat Black consumers in our establishments? You know, are we opening on time? Are we treating people with respect? Are we following each other around the store? Like, what are we doing to each other? So those are things that we need to think about too. How do we treat each other? But I'm going to say that we're going to end this call because we could go on forever about it. I think it's been a good conversation. I don't know whether we're going to, I had wanted us to meet with, I wanted to do I still will do a conversation with an older white woman and an older Black woman, probably a couple. So if you guys know some women who are like in their 80s or 90s, where we can just have a conversation between women so we can talk about, like, you know, what was their experiences growing up and just, you know, being engaged in community or what have you. What were the differences in their experiences through the years? And I was going to do that this Thursday, but I'm toning it down, so we're not. We probably should do one more call before the New Year's, but I'm not sure that we will. So if you don't hear, I'll reach out to you guys, to you ladies this week and let you know. But yeah, we probably should do one wrap up. We are well over 60 calls. This has been a phenomenal experience. Meeting with you all, and the topics that we've covered have just been all over the place. And I think, you know, it doesn't hurt to do a recap before we head into the holiday season. Anybody have any thoughts before we say goodnight? Tracy?
No, I've been putting stuff in the chat about the massage therapists and.
Yeah, that lady's in Trenton, isn't she? Oh, I see you said Saraville.
Nicole Thompson is Saraville, but Sandra Skin and Body Care is in Pennington, New Jersey. That's right outside of Trenton.
Okay. Maxine, you put your question just to me, but she's asking, does anybody know a good primary care doctor in the DC area? And IA had asked, is she still with us? I think she's gone. Yeah, she had asked for one in South Jersey. I don't know. But if anybody knows one in DC, can you put that in the chats and share it with Maxine?
Thank you. I couldn't figure out how to send it to everyone.
Yeah, you haven't just gone to me, so I'll tell you about that later. Let's see, anybody else have anything to share? Audrey, how are you? How's your mom? Okay, maybe she's not.
Okay, I'm unmuting.
Okay.
I'm taking it. Hi, how you doing, everybody? I'm taking in all of these stories because I've had so many medical stories as we've been in and out of ER all year. And we've had a lot of them. And I was just reflecting back, we were in the hospital recently and there was a sister and she would refuse to wear gloves in the ER. So I asked her one time, I asked her two times, and finally I had to say, you know what? It was partially true. I told her that mom had a skin bacteria. And that's the only way I was able to force her to wear gloves before she touched my mother. There's another experience. It wasn't a sister, another hospital where I got a phone call at like 5, 6 in the morning. And my mother said, get over here right away because she had been up all night. She said she couldn't breathe all night and nobody would take care of her. And I did, eventually I complained, but I never complained if she's in a medical facility while she's in the facility because I don't want any retribution while she's there. So I wait a while until she's out, then I complain. And when I did complain, but I guess about a year later or so, I never saw that nurse who gave me a hard time because I think I did say something to that particular nurse on duty, and they were like, you know what, they got other people here sicker than you. She came out, they said, so I've got a ton of stories, but I'm glad that it is coming forth because what are we going to, it's just a terrible system. I call the system, it's not quite appropriate. I call it medical apartheid. Right. Because they treat us differently, all kinds of greasy ways. If we saw what happened with George Floyd on television, with the George Floyd that happens in the medical community, the age, the people of color, whatever. And most of the time goes unreported, even with insurance, even if you have health insurance. So there's a lot of work to be done out here, a lot of work. So I really appreciate your story. I'm so sorry that you got sick. I hope you can see, appears that you're doing so much better.
I don't even know what it was, but I need to find, I think I'm in the Cooper system right now, but I think I'm just going to find a whole nother system. I've just had too many experiences that are indicative to me, or that say to me that there's a problem, a systemic problem. It's not. And the thing with my situation in the hospital, what I don't want them to do, which is very easy to do, is to make the cleaning staff the scapegoat. It's very easy to blame the cleaning staff. And I'm very clear that this problem goes beyond your cleaning staff, which is probably some contracted person, company or what have you. So, yeah.
There needs to be accountability for what people do at all levels.
Well, you know what? For a nurse to tell me that I should unplug myself tells me that works in an environment where that was okay for her to say. She had no qualms about saying that. She didn't hesitate. She didn't stutter, which tells me that it's SOP. So that's a problem. That's a problem.
I truly hope that it gets reported and even louder. As loud as it can be. Out loud, report out.
How long you know me, Audrey? A long time.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I just been too preoccupied with other stuff, but trust me, I'm probably just going to write an editorial or something about it and just shame them publicly because I don't know what else works.
Yes.
I don't know what else works. Yeah. But anybody else before we say good night? Jocelyn, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I saw you made a few comments. Appreciate you always.
You're welcome, Helen. Hope to see you before the new year.
Yeah, I'm hoping I get on an airplane and go somewhere, but if not, I'm going to get in my car and head south. So, Miss Sanders, you might see me knocking on your door, girl.
Okay, Miss Helen. Okay,
Helen?
Thank you.
I'm fascinated. You can let me in. Hi, Jennifer. How are you, babe?
Helen, I didn't want you to see my face looking like this, but anyway, I've been on the Zoom. I want to thank you for everything you've done and all of the ladies that was on the Zoom that shared. And I'm hoping that all of us just take a moment to reflect on ourselves because it starts one person at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about self-love, right?
Definitely.
Also, for those of you who are on the call with Cleo Monago, I have the video. It's been edited, so I'll release that to you all this week, so you'll have it. I'll probably this evening. I'll just send it out to you for the anti-Blackness, and which goes right into this conversation. How can we have Black doctors who treat us badly too, because they've internalized some of this anti-Blackness stuff. That's how.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything else? Anybody else? I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to say good night. Thank you, everybody, for coming and hanging out with us. I see a few new people. I will add you to the email list. Of course, if you're on Facebook, please join us on join our page, When Black Women Gather. Send me an email at HL Higgy. You get my email, so you have the email address. And let's just stay in touch.
Helen, can I just say something right after you hit the stop record?
Okay, so at that, I'm going to stop the recording and say thank you all, and then we can hang out for a few seconds more if somebody has something they just want to share with us.
Good night, all.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Good night, Miss Bye.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you,
Have
lady.
a good evening, everyone.
Yes, beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, Helen, so I just wanted to.
Okay, let me hit the stop record. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Oh, sorry.
Good night. Be well. Be well.